Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into the arrest of actor Haley Joel Osment.
That's right. We're working mainly from an NBC News report, which is quite detailed. It actually includes quotes from police body camera footage and even a later statement from Osment himself.
Exactly. So our plan is really to unpack the sequence of events, look at what was said, and just get a clearer picture beyond the initial headlines.
Okay, so where do we start? The report points to April 8th, right, at Mammoth Mountain Ski Lodge.
Yeah, that's the initial incident. It seems the ski patrol first interacted with him at the bar.
Right. He was apparently trying to order a drink, but they noted he already seemed intoxicated and became argumentative.
That's what the report says, argumentative. And because of that, they wouldn't serve him. That seems to be the first sort of flashpoint.
And it didn't stop there, apparently. He then tried to get on the ski lift.
Yes, and the operator refused him entry, again, presumably because of his state. So the ski patrol ended up escorting him to the parking lot.
Okay, so by the time police actually arrive on scene, there's already this established context of, let's say, disruptive behavior.
Definitely. Which leads us to the arrest itself. The body cam footage apparently captured him being handcuffed.
And his immediate reaction, according to the report, was to say he was being attacked.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about his perspective, how he was perceiving things in that moment.
It's quite a reaction. And then there's the bit about his name, when they asked for his name.
He didn't give it, right? He said, "I'm an American."
Yes, I'm an
Yeah.
American. Yeah, well, it's a strange response in that specific situation.
It is. Maybe feeling threatened?
Yeah.
Or asserting some kind of status. It's hard to say.
Could be. Sometimes, people react in unexpected ways when confronted by authority, especially if they feel singled out. Invoking nationality like that is interesting.
So then we move to the ride to the Mono County Jail. And the body cam footage apparently shows him apologizing initially.
It does, yes. An initial apology to the officer. You'd maybe think things would calm down then.
But they didn't quite. Because almost right after that, his focus shifts, doesn't it?
Big shift. The report highlights him asking about getting a really, really good lawyer.
Right. So apology, then immediately thinking about the legal side.
Exactly. It suggests that, okay, maybe a moment of regret, but then immediately practical concerns about the consequences.
And it gets more intense. He's quoted saying he wants to punish people for how much they've inconvenienced me.
That's a direct quote from the report.
Yeah.
It's quite revealing about his mindset, that sense of grievance even while being arrested.
And the report notes the officer didn't respond to that, which is probably standard procedure, right? Don't engage, don't escalate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Standard de-escalation tactic. But the comment itself, wanting to punish people for the inconvenience, it shows a certain disconnect.
Okay, but then things take a really dark turn, the language he uses in the car.
Yeah, this is where it escalates significantly. The report states he called the officer a effing Nazi.
Which is just incredibly inflammatory.
Yeah.
And complaining about the handcuffs, saying he was being tortured.
Using terms like Nazi and tortured in that context is extreme. It points to a real loss of control, maybe underlying issues surfacing under pressure.
It certainly seems that way. And it didn't start there. There were threats, too.
Yes, the report details him saying, "I know who you are. I will never forget it."
Followed right up with, "You'll wish you treated me nicer. Yes, you will."
Those sound like pretty direct threats, implying future consequences for the officer just doing their job. It's serious.
Very serious. And then, and this is probably the most shocking part, the report says he used an expletive and then an anti-Semitic slur against the officer.
Yes, the report is explicit about that. An expletive followed by a specific anti-Semitic slur. Deeply offensive language.
And again, it mentions the officer remained silent through all of this.
Which, again, is likely protocol. But the fact that the slur was used and reported really highlights how bad things got in that car. It's unacceptable.
Absolutely. So after all this, what were the actual charges?
The Mono County District Attorney's Office filed 2 misdemeanor charges: possession of cocaine and disorderly conduct, specifically being under the influence of alcohol in public.
So charges reflecting both the substance use mentioned and the public behavior. Makes sense based on the account.
Connects directly back to the evidence reported, yeah.
Yeah.
The intoxication, the alleged drug possession.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the report also covers Osment's later public statement. He spoke to the New York Post.
He did, and in that statement, he expressed being absolutely horrified by my behavior.
And he specifically addressed the language, saying he would have spoken up sooner if he'd known he used such disgraceful language, claiming it happened during a blackout.
That's a key part of his response. Claiming a blackout, expressing horror particularly at the language, the slur, presumably, it's an attempt to account for it, suggesting a lack of conscious control or memory.
He also tried to provide some context, didn't he? Mentioning personal struggles.
Yes. He talked about the past few months of loss and displacement. He specifically mentioned his home being destroyed in the Eaton fire earlier that year.
Saying it brought him to a very low emotional place.
Right. So he's putting forward this narrative of significant personal hardship, potentially contributing to his state of mind and actions. It doesn't excuse the behavior, of course.
No, but it adds another layer to consider: the potential impact of trauma or emotional distress.
It certainly raises questions about how personal struggles can manifest, especially under the influence and in public.
So just to kind of wrap up the sequence, we have the initial intoxication and arguments, the arrest with the claims of being attacked, the troubling language and threats in the police car, including that awful slur.
Followed later by the public apology, the claim of a blackout, and the reference to personal difficulties.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? The behavior reported from the incident versus the later statement of remorse.
It really is. It highlights the complexities here. You have the raw footage capturing one reality, and then the public statement trying to frame it afterwards. It makes you think about accountability.
Especially for public figures, yeah. And how things like substance use, emotional state, and personal responsibility all kind of collide.
Definitely. Messy human behavior often is, especially under duress or influence.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners to consider.
Yeah.
Thinking about everything we've just discussed, the actions, the words, the later explanation, what does this incident really tell us about taking responsibility, especially when someone claims impairment or severe stress? How do we balance acknowledging personal struggles with the harm caused by someone's actions and words?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Weighing personal context against impact and accountability. It's not straightforward. Something to definitely mull over.